was important in an 800-page book.
Yeah,
How
no,
does that
it's
happen?
huge. Yeah, no, it's a real. The second book she wrote is not as good. I couldn't read it the whole thing, but this one I was hooked from the beginning.
Yeah,
I couldn't
from the
stop. Yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
And it's-
yeah, yeah. But it's harrowing. It's really harrowing. Yes. Yeah.
How are you? All right.
Good morning, Win. How are you? Yeah, sorry, I've still not replied to your email.
But that's right.
Kind of,
It's any Wednesday. I just
Yeah.
want to be
Yeah.
part of it.
I'll send a new rota soon.
Then
so-
that'll be in time.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
need to have it
yeah,
sooner than that.
yeah. Okay. Well, good to see you. Good to see you. Good morning. How are you? Good to see you. Buongiorno. Buongiorno. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I'll do it. I'll do it. Well, good morning and welcome back to the Sunday theology talks. To you who are here in person, to the people who are following via the live stream. So I sent to all of you the program of talks for this year. So you all have this page with the dates and the titles. This is only in this page. I only put the sharp faiths, only the talks I will give. But there will be a number of guest speakers, and the program of the guest speakers will be sent to you separately afterwards. So I want you just to go very quickly through the topic of this year, the question of evil and suffering. Obviously, evil and suffering for us is connected to the issue of the existence of God, and that, there is a sense in which it can be said that evil is a problem only if you believe in God, because if you believe in God, really, it's very, very difficult to make sense of evil and suffering, and especially the suffering of the children. So it's something that I've been reflecting on for a while, and it's been difficult to, I'll be frank with you, to see how to broach the topic, how to get into this issue. Obviously, there is a way of doing it, taking the issues, especially from a philosophical viewpoint, one after the other. There is a huge literature on it. But I decided that it was not the best option. It was not the best option. The best option was, I think, and it's a risky one, but try to, as I said in the first series of lectures, map the issue of suffering and evil by looking at the way in which, especially in literature, this has been approached. So I made a choice which is entirely arbitrary. You could have chosen, there are so many other novels, so many more, probably even better novels that could have helped us better in doing this. But I hope that this choice is representative enough. And at least these are some of the novels that really helped me or gave me an insight into I wouldn't say a better understanding, it's not a question of understanding, but a better insight into suffering and evil. Now, the thing which I want to tell every one of you is you don't need to have read these novels. Obviously, if you want to, you're very welcome. I'll try each time to give you a summary, to give you the passages I quote, and to make what I try to say through them understandable, even if you have not read the novels. Then in Advent, I will focus on, again, something I've been wanting to do for a very long time, on Marilyn Robinson. She's probably one of my favorite novelists of all times. And so I will focus on her works, and it will be still the issue of suffering and evil, but with a focus on her vision on this issue. And then in January, I will get into the theology of evil and suffering proper. So I will really do the theology, we'll look into the the origin of evil, then how the question of evil impacts belief in the existence of God, the devil. We're going to talk about the devil. We're going to talk about hell and suffering. You see, all really uplifting and joyful topics. And then, for Lent, I will focus on obviously the Christian answer, if you want to use this word, or the Christian take on this in particular, which is the cross. So we're going to talk about the cross of Christ. And then we're going to talk about the resurrection, still in the trajectory of God's response to the evil and suffering of the world. And then, because the issue of evil obviously affects us insofar as, to a great deal, it involves suffering for us, and suffering is very connected also to illness. I want to do a little bit of theology of healing. So we're going to talk about this in June of next year, if you'll manage to stick until then. Today, let's focus on this novel by Golding. Just by a show of hands, has any one of you read the novel? Okay, and watched the film. There's a film which was shot in the 70s. Yeah, you saw that film. Okay, so the Lord of the Flies. I mean, it's also widely studied in school, in many in curricula, etc. Was written in 1954. William Golding got the Nobel Prize for this novel, and it's a novel that really. I still don't know what to think about it. There is one thing which is sure, is that it really catches you. So it's very difficult not to be kind of caught by the novel. And yet at the same time, I still have not decided if it's a good novel or a bad novel. I am still like, especially now having reread it and plunged into it more deeply, I'm still not sure about it. So it's written in a nondescript period, but wartime period. It's likely that the whole world has been a victim of an atomic kind of disaster. So there is destruction, and there is a sense in which evil is triumphing all over the world. And particularly so what happens is that probably because of the war, this plane crashes on this island. There are these young boys. There are only young boys who survive. And these young boys try to, have or survive in this context. And the characters, there are more characters, but the characters I want to focus on are Ralph, who is the natural leader of the group, and the one who tries to establish some kind of organization. There is Piggy, who is a fat and asthmatic boy, but is the real brain of the situation. He is the one who convinces the leader, actually suggests the leader the things to do. And symbolically, there is this conch that they find, and it is Piggy that finds out that this is useful to call a meeting, okay? And then there is the opposite of Ralph, which is this other character called Jack. Jack, who is was the head of a choir group. He had a position of leadership before coming on this island, whereas Ralph didn't, thinks that he deserves to be the leader, but is not elected. And he is the one who is going to be increasingly challenging Ralph's authority. There's going to be a conflict between the two, and eventually this is going to lead to murder and all sorts of things. Now, the thing which is also interesting is that there is a battle, an aerial battle at one point. So the children go to the island, they settle in, they decide to have a fire. and keep this fire lit so that it can be seen by a boat passing by, so they can be rescued. But the difficulty is that, children being children, they want to play, they don't want to work, so they don't look after the fire. At one point, there is a boat that passes by, but they realize that the fire had gone out. So there the conflicts start. But the real problem is more the fear. Obviously, these are children. They are in a hostile environment, and especially starts kind of the fear from the little ones. Who start imagining like snakes coming from the sea, threatening them. But then at one point, there is this aerial battle overnight. The children don't see. There is this pilot who parachutes itself on the island, but it dies in the process. And it gets caught into a tree, so it looks like a beast. So seen from afar, you have this kind of billowing parachute that, especially for the fertile imagination of children, seen from afar in the night, looks like a beast. And this, when it is discovered, amplifies the fear. But with the amplification of the fear, also there is the conflict between the children that becomes like deeper and deeper. And this is the moment when one of the characters, Jack, really tries to get elected by the others as leader. They don't want to elect him, and he decides to take power by himself. And significantly, one of the first things he does is that he tries to find a solution to the beast by killing a pig, severing the head of the pig, and putting the head of this pig on a stick, and as an offering, as a way of trying to propitiate the beast. Okay? So, in a sense, he co-opts the beast for his own power. He uses the fear of the demons to affirm his own authority by saying, I am the one who has found the solution to the problem. So I'm in number 3.5 in your handout. There is another character in the novel who is not immediately noticed very often. Is the character of Simon, who is this sickly boy who is always on the side, is underestimated by the others, but he is the only one who really is, although is as afraid as the others, eventually will face the fear of this beast. So he goes into the forest and finds the pig's head, which he names the Lord of the Flies, obviously, because it is rotting, is surrounded by flies. And he has a kind of hallucinatory experience in which the pig's head talks to him, warning him that the real beast is in the heart of the boys themselves. Then he discovers that what they thought was a beast is the body of the pilot caught into the tree, and tries to go to see the others to tell them the truth. So he's the one who brings the good news to the others. So there is a Christological reference to Jesus here. But for the second time, the boys start dancing on the beach around the fire. They start enacting kind of the killing of the pig. They get into a frenzy. There is a storm going on. It's towards the night. So anyway, when Simon arrives to give the good news that actually there is no beast, etc., they mistake him for the beast and they kill him. Okay, so they kill the boy. And then there is another murder, is the piggy, the boy who represents reason, represents science, represents solution to the problem. This is the one who thinks about the conch, thinks about the rules for democracy, thinks about the fire, is also killed at one point in the novel. So if you see, there are murders, so it's serious business. It's not just naughtiness on the part of these boys. The story ends that at one point, after killing Piggy, they want to kill also Ralph, and to try to kill him, they set fire on the island. So they start a fire to kind of push him into the open, but that fire, they lose control of the fire, and the fire destroys the island. And as they are kind of hunting Ralph, finally there is this adult, this naval officer, who comes onto the island because he's seen the fire, finds the boys, and that's the moment in which the boys realize what had happened. All start crying, and they are so-called rescued. But their rescue means going into a world which is just as scorched and destroyed as the island is. So whatever is happening on this island is just a kind of a representation, a metaphor of what has been happening in the world at wide. So number 8, so some classical interpretations of this novel. One is that it is an implicit tribute to the humanizing power of social institutions. So the boys do try to give themselves some democratic rules, have meetings, decide that only the person who holds the conch can speak. They decide to have a discipline of work, but nothing of this work because of one might say because of the 2 reasons. One is the fun, they want to have fun. The second one is that the jealousy and the conflicts, they don't know how to handle this jealousy and these conflicts. So 8.2, neither rules nor authority hold for long, especially under the pressure of fear. The fear is the main thing that really kind of creates this disintegration of this order they try to establish. The naval officer in 8.3 who rescues the boys at the end, and I think there is a deep irony in this sentence, says, I should have thought that a pack of British boys, you are British boys, aren't you, would have been able to put up a better show than that, I mean. And Ralph replies to him, it was like that at first. We were together then. Okay? However, we know that the reason why the boys are stranded on the island is that the adult world is at war and in the process of destroying itself. So, there's no tribute to be done to the social institutions because they have failed in the adult world as well. So it cannot be a defense of these social institutions. So number 9, another classical interpretation of the novel is that it is basically modeled on the talk of Genesis about, we start with a state of innocence, then there is an original sin, and then the world goes wrong. So the fall from a state of original sin. However, I mean, the boys are not innocent to start with. First of all, they come already from a world which is, torn asunder by evil and war. They've seen enough of that to have been already compromised themselves. And also the island itself in 9.1, although in the island essentials of life are abundant, so are essentials of pain, terror, and death. The fruit they eat makes them ill. The animals they awaken, which awaken the bloodthirstiness and greed, so the pig in particular, they start to kill. The cruel war which is happening in the air above them, and the darkness of the unknown. So it is no paradise, this island. Looks like a paradise at the beginning, but in reality already is a place of threat, of darkness, and of fear. And then finally, another interpretation I'll mention to you is the one that attributes the fall into chaos, murder, and self-destruction, in number 10, to the failure to yield to the principles of reason and science, represented by the character of Piggy. Piggy has glasses, significantly. They represent knowledge, and also these glasses are used to lit the fire. So they represent science. They represent the power of science to provide a possible rescue. However, there are many ambiguities in the character of Piggy too. He, representing reason, knows that there is no beast. He knows, and he says that several times. There is no beast. Don't be stupid, he says to the boys. But, and this is the failure, the significant failure, he fails to acknowledge the reality of the irrational aspects of humanity and the need to deal with them, especially the fears and the passions. And that's the problem. He is blind on his own fears, on his own passions. Lord of the Flies, I'm quoting an author here, is an allegory on the disintegration of society due to the tragic flaw in human nature. Man or human beings fail to recognize and thereby appease the irrational part of their soul. The plight of the boys becomes an allegory for the plight of the modern human being who denies and fears the irrational. Mankind's essential illness is irrational fear. So in the end, number 11, what causes the unraveling into violence, murder, and destruction on the island by fire is the fear that triggers a fight for survival and a descent into nihilism. I'm going to talk about this, compounded by jealousy between Ralph and Jack's will to power. Which means, and this is the verdict of the novel and through what Simon says, that the real beast is inside the human heart. And because it is irrational, reason and social institutions are powerless against it. So let me repeat this point. The real beast is inside the human heart, and because it is irrational, reason and social institutions are powerless against it. So before going into the fear, I want to kind of talk a little bit about the will to power, represented by the character of Jack. In a situation of crisis, survival depends not on reason, rules, democratic principles, all end up being powerless, but on the emergence of a leader capable of imposing his will over everyone else. So this is Nietzsche. So the person who is able to impose his will on the others is the person who deserves to be a leader, but also is the person who deserves to or can establish the rules. So there are no rules objectively better than other rules. The only rules that really count are the rules which are decided by the person who happens to conquer power thanks to the sheer determination of his or her will. So the will to power is illustrated in a chilling episode here. There are murders in the novel, but the murders are not, often they are. One is because there's a frenzy. Another one is because the other one is, the murder of Piggy is quite determined. But there is an episode of punishment of one of the children by the leader, which shows this will to power. So I'm in number 13:1. Where there is a quotation, Jack is going to beat Wilfred, who is one of the boys. What for? The other guy, Robert, shook his head doubtfully. I don't know. He didn't say. He got angry and made us tie Wilfred up. He giggled excitedly, he's been tied for hours waiting. But didn't Chief said why? So this dialogue among the hunters who are with Jack occurs after Simon's death. We are going to talk about this in a little moment, and before Piggy's. And though it concerns a beating rather than a death, it seems a more powerful indictment of Jack and his hunters than the murders. Simon is killed in darkness, the final spasm of an orgy, of a frenzy, and the murder is a collective one. Piggy is killed by Roger. In other case, was a decision made by the chief. The deaths of Simon and Piggy, horrid as they are primitive equivalents of manslaughter, crimes of passion. Wilfrid's beating, however, is carried on at Jack's whim for no reason except to demonstrate his control. So it is an illustration of this will to power. And crucially, as I said to you earlier, Jack asserts his rule by finding a solution to the fear of the beast. His is the idea of leaving the pig's head on a spike to propitiate the beast. And here you have a few quotations from the book. I'll let you read on your own. So 13.3, it is possible to argue that, as Piggy does, that demons do not exist and that a cool rationalism will expose the deception. The impotence of this program is, as Golding shows, due to the fact that the man or human being come to cherish the demons because they endorse his own will to power. So the beast, the demon, is useful to the person who wants to conquer power because this person offers a solution, like creates a cult, creates an idol, creates whatever way you want to call it, this pig's head, and this leader also can profit from the fear and the instability which is created by these demons, by this fear of the demons. So it is basically saying that, you know, in the world as it is today, we shouldn't think that, or we shouldn't believe in the possibility of social institutions and reason and democracy and rules to solve the problems, because the reality is that the more we are in a situation of fear, the more the solution is going to be looked for in strong leaders who impose their will to others. So the real, if you want, reason why everything unravels from the beginning is fear. And this is really should be the focus of our analysis of what's going on in the world according to this novel. So is Jack's will to power the only way of dealing with the disintegrating power of fear? Is there any way the beast can be seen for what it is really, as Simon does? So in Golding's novel, this alternative way is represented by the character of Simon. So Simon, I'm in number 15, the second quotation, represents the antidote for a rationalism that cannot see. Simon's insight into the beast offers the boys the possibility of salvation on the island. Simon's knowledge, had it been believed, would have made up for the defects in Piggy's, who represents reason. Piggy's knowledge, coupled with the ability to see beyond mere appearance, would have made Ralph's regime resilient to the inroads of Jack's barbarism. And indeed, when Ralph reveals, so I'm going to read a couple of passages now. So when Ralph reveals, Ralph is, the leader, goes into an expedition with Jack and another couple of boys. They see the dead pilot, but they mistake him for the beast. They go to the group and they say to the group, there is a beast. So they confirm the existence of this kind of threat on the island. At that moment, and there the ambiguity of the character of Piggy, so the rational or scientific solution comes to the light. When Ralph reveals, number 16, the finding of the beast to the group, there is a clash between Simon and Piggy. Simon wants to do something about it, but Piggy refuses to face the beast and comes up with a new iteration of the initial plan, which is keep the fire lit, but just move it away from the place where the beast might be. So Ralph said the beast had teeth and black big eyes, which is not true, obviously. His imagination was already kind of unraveling. For a while, the boys, sat in depressed silence. Then Simon stood up and took the conch from Piggy. You had to have the conch to speak in your hands, who was so astonished that he remained on his feet, because Simon didn't really talk all that much. Ralph looked up to Simon. "Simon, what is this time?" A half sound of jeering ran round the circle, and Simon shrunk from it. "I thought," Simon says, "there might be something to do, something we." Again, the pressure of the assembly took his voice away. He sought for help and sympathy and chose Piggy. He turned half toward him, clutching the conch to his brown chest. "I think we ought to climb to the mountain." So he wants to kind of face the fear. He wants to go towards it. He wants really to deal with it, whereas nobody else wants to do the same. So the circle shivered with dread. Simon broke off and turned to Piggy, who was looking at him with an expression of derisive incomprehension. So this is reason's reply to this suggestion. What's the good of climbing up to this here beast when Ralph and the other two couldn't do anything? So Simon whispered his answer. What else is there to do? His speech made, he allowed Piggy to lift the conch out of his hand. Then he retired and sat as far away from the others as possible. So his solution has been kind of refused. Piggy was speaking now with more assurance and with what, in the circumstances, had not been so serious, the others would have recognized as pleasure. So this is Piggy's moment. So Piggy refuses basically the solution Simon gives of facing the beast, and rather tries to find a solution which is the rational one, the democratic one, keeping the fire going on, etc., etc., etc. A solution that does not address the fear. Okay, so the fear is something this approach to reason cannot deal with. So number 18, Simon goes into the forest to face the beast. So decides to go on his own. And as you know, as I've told you already, first he finds the pig's head erected by Jack, and then discovers the body of the pilot and the parachute with which the other boys had mistaken for the beast. Now, there is a long passage of the finding of the beast. I might read some of it. What is important is that at some point he has a kind of hallucination, and this beast, it is as if this beast starts to talk to him. So in the middle of the quotation, you have in number 19, "Run away," said the head silently. "Go back to the others. It was a joke, really. Why should you bother? You were just wrong, that's all. A little headache, something you ate, perhaps. Go back, child," said the head silently. "You are silly little boy," said the Lord of the Flies. "Just an ignorant, silly little boy." Simon moved his swollen tongue but said nothing. "Don't you agree?" said the Lord of the Flies. "Aren't you just a silly little boy?" Simon answered him in the same silent voice. "Well then," said the Lord of the Flies, "you'd better run off and play with the others. They think you are batty. You don't want Ralph to think you are batty, do you? You like Ralph a lot, don't you? And Piggy and Jack." Simon's head was tilted slightly up. His eyes could not break away, and the Lord of the Flies hung in space before him. "What are you doing out here all alone? Aren't you afraid of me?" Okay, so he wants, to be him to be afraid of him. Simon shook. "There isn't anything to help you, only me, and I am the beast." Simon's mouth labored, brought forth audible words, "Pig's head on a stick." So he sees through, this attempt by the beast to instill fear in him and to present itself as the solution to it. "You're just a pig's head on a stick." Fancy thinking, the beast keeps saying, the beast was something you could hunt and kill, said the head. For a moment, or two, the forest and the others dimly appreciated places echoed with the parody of laughter. You knew, didn't you? I am part of you. Okay, so beast is inside you. Close, close, close. I'm the reason why it's no go. Why things are what they are. There was blackness within, a blackness that spread. Simon was inside the mouth. He fell down and lost consciousness. The Lord of the Flies hung on his stick like a black ball. Simon spoke aloud to the clearing. What else is there to do? Then, as I told you, Simon recovers, presses on, is not afraid of the beast anymore, of the pig anymore, presses on, finds the dead pilot, discovers that, this is what people have mistaken for the beast. So in number 20, there's a long quotation, I just quote the passage in the middle. The beast was harmless and horrible, and the news must reach the others as soon as possible. But obviously, when he goes there, as I told you, the other boys kill him because they mistake him for the beast. And there is a long passage here you can read by yourself that describes very poignantly the scene in which he is killed. So I want to go to the conclusion now. So I've given you a bit like of an overview, and I want to try to see what this novel helps us to see when it comes to tackling the issue of evil. Does it really help us to do it? And if yes, how? So why is evil winning over the world? Why, as in the adults' world, the boys too have given over to violence, murder, and end up destroying the island? A possible answer might be hidden in the final page of the novel. So when confronted by the naval officer about what has happened, Ralph breaks into tears along with the other boys. And a little bit down in the quotation we have in number 22.2, there is this sentence. And in the middle of them, with filthy body, matted hair, and unwiped nose, Ralph wept for the end of innocence, the darkness of man's heart, and the fall through the air of the true, wise friend called Piggy, who had been killed, as I told you. So number 23, significantly, even in what should be a moment of final recognition, Ralph weeps the death and the loss of Piggy, but not of Simon. And both have been murdered, right? And Simon, if anything, is the one who found out about what was the real cause of their fear. It means that no lesson has been learned, that the causes of the descent into evil remain unaddressed, namely the inability to deal with fear other than by denial, or by co-opting the fear as a means for the will to power, what Jack does with the heads of the pig, or by naive reliance on a reason severed from the aspect of humanity represented by Simon, which can be described as religious, mystical, revelatory, and intuitive. So is Golding's novel making the point that human beings are inherently and inevitably evil, which is the title of this topic? Rather, I think the novel seems to presuppose that for whatever reason, we find ourselves in a world, a reality, an existential condition that exposes us to fear and trigger survival mechanisms, which include the selection of the fittest and the will to power, and lead to violence. Okay? It might be that the survival mechanism is inevitable when you are in a situation of fear, afraid for your life. There's the run or fight mechanism. So it's like almost hormones. Is chemical. Is just stronger than everything. Our reason is short circuit, right? It goes in a short circuit. Is bypassed. So it might be that the survival mechanism is inevitable, and yet it is also possible that it is not an inevitable outcome, and that there are other ways of dealing with this existential fear. Okay? So if there is an original sin in Golding, this seems to be the result of human beings' existential condition. I'm quoting here number 27, Golding suggests that the fall of humanity is not the result of a sudden rebellious act, as in the story of Genesis, but the inevitable concomitant of human condition on Earth. The Genesis story has been modified to include modern knowledge of humanity's evolutionary development. So the idea is that humanity has kind of fallen into evil because it finds itself in a situation in which the threats and the fears are such that the survival mechanism leads to the triumph of selection of the fittest and will to power. And yet evil is not inevitable. There's a way of dealing with it represented by the character of Simon. And this is where I'd like to look a bit closer to what this novel might say about evil that might be interesting for us. What does explain the insightfulness of Simon? So Simon has eyes to see in the novel. Everything is incredibly symbolic in this novel. So, the glasses, the fire, the conch, everything is the pig, the head, etc. So everything is as a meaning. I mean, not a precise one. That's the thing. It's not just a ciphered story, but is a novel. So there is kind of a width in the possibility of interpretations. But it is true that, and this struck me, this passage, this time that I read it, Simon has eyes to see. He was a small, skinny boy, his chin pointed, and his eyes so bright that had deceived Ralph into thinking him delightfully gay and wicked. So while Piggy represents reason and science, has the glasses, Simon has bright eyes, a symbol of another kind of vision. This points to an artistic, religious, mystical capacity or vision. Simon has frailties that give him a capacity for empathy. He is someone who is subject to fainting spells. So probably the experience of his frailty has made him more empathetic towards the vulnerability of other boys, and is seen constantly in the novel being good to the little ones. The other ones bossy them, whereas he is the one who is kind to them. He also has the capacity to withdraw from others, be alone, one would say meditate. He has a secret place in the jungle where he spends time alone. He is the character, in the end, that speaks for Golding's vision on the state of humanity. It is to him that it is attributed the capacity to see what really is happening. So in 32, there's this quotation from the novel. However, Simon thought of the beast that rose before his inward sight. You see again the inward sight, the picture of a human at once heroic and sick. So humanity is heroic and sick in this vision. And when he sees the pig's head's eyes, he finds them dim with the infinite cynicism of adult life. They assured Simon that everything was a bad business. So Simon, like Golding, tries to convey this discovery, this vision to the others, but it is too late. So Golding has a profound pessimistic vision of humanity, not because he doesn't believe that there is no possibility of discovering what's happening, what the real beast is, but because it's too late. Already the destruction has done its course. So I kind of think that this novel really can help us to broach the topic of evil. First of all, if it has been so successful, it is because people resonate with it. Even people who want to, and criticize the novel, because the novel can be criticized on many grounds, cannot resist the suggestion that there is something inevitably kind of wrong and evil about the way things are. this novel has been taken as one of the most powerful kind of indictment on humanity's pretension or naive belief in the progress. This the world is going to progress, reason and science are going to solve all the problems. Well, no. Actually, what we see, according to this novel, is that reason and science are blind. So they do see and they do help us for some things, but because they are not capable of dealing with the irrational aspect of our humanity, especially our fears and our ambitions, our jealousy, all the other feelings we have, as human beings. Because of that reason, reason and science leave them unchecked, and they can really, cause disaster. And yet at the same time, there is a possibility of dealing with this fear. There is a possibility of addressing it. And where is this possibility? So where is this vision? What gives us an insight into the reality of human condition? Well, here is the ability for vision that is attributed to this character, who is religious, mystical, artistic. To me, this is one of the reasons why I think that literature, the help of the novels, poetry we could say, etc., is very good to approach the problem of evil, because that's the insight into, or a lot of the novels, I mean not all of them, but a lot of the novels, they do not pretend to explain the problem of evil, why there is evil in the world. They do not pretend to offer a solution of it, but they offer an insight into it. They help us to see it. And also there is another aspect, I think, another advantage of approaching the issue of evil through the help of literature, is that from a philosophical viewpoint, even a theological viewpoint, often there is the sense, we tackle the issue of evil with the idea of finding a solution to it, or with the idea of explaining it. Whereas literature doesn't try to do this. Literature tries to simply describe it as insightfully as possible, but also I think the approach of literature helps us to do it not out of curiosity, but because it is an urge. If you are the character of Simon, if you have that insight, that vision, you cannot help but being bothered by it. You cannot help but being even at a risk of your life, even if it's something that really might turn out to be very, very painful for you. You have to look for it. You have to take the risk. Okay. So it's this section, this first half of lectures. See it as on the problem of evil, mapping the problem of evil with the help of literature, is basically doing what Simon does. So we are going to do what Simon does in this novel, which is, we are going to look. We are going to look, the pig's head, and we are going to look for the beast. Okay? We don't know what we are going to find. He didn't know that he would find that the beast doesn't exist. This exposure to the pig's head and to the beast really was painful for him. He went to a hallucination and he fainted. So it's not an easy way of doing it, but he did it. So that's the idea. The idea is that when it comes to tackling the issue of suffering and evil, only an empathic exposure to it, and one that is not afraid of looking into our fears, looking into the less gratifying aspects of our humanity. Only this can help us to get a sense of it, and this is what we are going to do with the other novels. At this moment, we are going to bring everything to the Eucharist and ask the Lord to guide and help us in this journey. But thank you so much. And I'll see you next time. So the lecture, as always, for the people who are available online, and the video recording also of this lecture will be available from tomorrow. Have a nice day. Have a nice rest of the day.